Alright, what's up guys? This is Cole, aka Proximitty, here bringing you a brand new video today. This is actually going to be a bit of a challenge. I have been putting off doing this video for a long time because I felt like it'd be really hard for me to properly explain without getting too confusing, but I think I finally came up with the perfect way to do it. Today, I'm going to be running down the basics of the spawn system in Halo 5 and really just FPS games in general. Most all of them operate about the same exact way, but we're going to be talking about Halo 5 specifically here today, and I have thankfully the use of my computer to basically help illustrate and properly show you guys easy demonstrations of how the spawn system works, and hopefully you guys can get a better grasp on it. Now this is just going to be very basic. I don't want to get too far into it. I could literally talk about this for hours. So if this video is well received and you guys like this format and it works for you, then I'll probably do a more advanced one in the future. So today we're going to be using a couple YouTube videos I have up on my channel to explain certain scenarios and kind of help explain that, on top of using Adobe Photoshop to help give you guys a nice visual on how it all works. So over here, we have a nice overhead of the map Coliseum. Now, let me just actually turn the teams off here so you guys can see. This is just a plain map Coliseum from an overhead point of view. This is the snipe area, the blue base, the top rockets tower, and the red base. So that should be pretty simple. I found this image on Google, and this is kind of labeling where everything is and all the callouts. So I'm sorry for that being here, but you guys can just ignore that part of it. And it's also upside down because I wanted the red on the left. I don't know, it just made more sense in my head that way. So basically, we're going to use a first example playing Capture the Flag on the map Coliseum. So you have your two sides here, which is the red side and the blue side. I popped this up just for a nice extra visual. Now, you have to understand that the game is going to try its absolute best to spawn you in the best place possible. So if you guys know, off the rip, you all spawn in this little area. Let's just say for this hypothetical that everybody runs everywhere you see. See the blue team kind of set up here, sent one towards snipe, one towards S3, one towards their bridge, and one towards rockets. Red team put one on their elbow, their bridge, S3, and snipe. Okay, so this is kind of a just pretty standard breakout on a lot of Capture the Flag games, and this is how a lot of teams will set up. But whenever teams die, the game is going to try to spawn you in the most preferable place, the safest place possible. So you have to try to the game's going to try to analyze the map and look at the positive places for you to spawn and the negative places for you to spawn. So an example of a negative place in this very instance, this will never happen, but what if one of the blue team player dies and he just spawns right here in front of this red guy? That's never going to happen. The game's smarter than that. They try to put you in a place where you have a chance to play when you spawn in and have a good opportunity to make a play and not just get spawn killed. Now, if you're a player who understands how the game operates in its own mind and tries to figure out where to find preferable places to spawn you, you can then use that to your advantage. You can manipulate it and make it work in your advantage. So that might seem a little bit of a daunting task, but it really isn't if I can help explain it on a good way. So let's say the opening, this rarely happens, but let's just say in a perfect world here, the red team is just so good that right off the rip, all these players run out like this, and the red team kills all four of the blue team. So the blue team just goes down. And then they decide to set up a spawn trap. Now, if you're playing Capture the Flag, which for this example we are, you're basically always, and I mean 95% of the time, always going to spawn on your own half. Once again, here we go, here's the sides. So you can assume the blue team is just going to spawn on this side, okay? No matter what, they'll be on this half of the map because there's an objective inside of your base, and it really wouldn't be fair for the blue players to spawn behind the red players because then they could just go grab their flag. Now, if this was Slayer, it's a completely different story. The map is more neutral. The sides that you spawn in originally are still going to be favored, but that doesn't mean you're exclusive to that side. You will often spawn anywhere on the map in Slayer. But for the first example, it's a little bit more simple. We're just going to cut the map in half. Now, the blue team has this half to work with. The red team is going to manipulate this half. So, if you're playing a good team is going to set up to try to create a spawn trap. Now, a very common way to set this up, which is the one I'm going to use for this example. Let's just say that this guy here is going to run top rockets. This guy here is going to run to S3. This guy's going to push up to their bridge, and this guy's going to push up to cave. Now, so here we are. Everybody did that, okay? So now, I want to pay attention to not only where they're standing, but where they're looking. Now, if you're playing against somebody who's smart, they're going to know that if you look in certain directions and you stand in certain places, you're going to cast negative spawn influence. So here, the blue cave spawn, which is a preferable spawn point, it's a very common one, is blocked because he's standing here, okay? He's standing here casting a negative influence. He's standing on the bridge, but his vision is staring not only at this wall, so this place is safe, but he's looking into the flag. Now, so basically cuts off the flag spawn. He is looking towards the elbow, but like I said, if he's smart, he's going to be paying attention to where he's looking. So likely he'll be looking in this direction until they're about to spawn, and then look there, and likewise with him. But if they set up here and stand in these positions, the blue team is always going to spawn right here. And the reason for that is because, like I said, this cave spawn is blocked because of his sight line. Like I said, it's not just paying attention to where you're standing, but where you're looking. So they're not going to try to spawn you right in the vision of somebody. If he's standing on the bridge, they don't want to spawn the blue team right in front of him. That's just easy shooting for him. And or vice versa. If multiple blues stand here, then he's just going to get melted. But that does happen sometimes because there are so many spawn points. So if they all just got in their face, they're going to get spawned on top of. That's just the way it works, which is why they're keeping their distance. If this Rockets guy is smart, he's going to be staring somewhere in a more neutral area, and then when they spawn, he'll look towards here in order to avoid getting a split spawn, which I'll get into in a moment. And likewise with the guy at S3. But as mentioned, they were standing here originally. So once they get a swift 4 down before these guys spawned, they have 8 seconds before the blue team spawns. So it takes them a couple seconds to get set up. So if they were already standing in the positions that I was just mentioning a second ago, then they would need to be looking in a more neutral area so they don't dirty the spawns. Because this guy Top Rockets could be staring at the elbow. If he's staring in this area, then the game's not going to want to spawn the blue team there. But he does want the blue team to be there because it's very easy to kill them in this situation. So you have to give them a couple seconds to at least get set. And oftentimes, like I said, this is a perfect scenario where you had 4 dead at the same time, which very rarely happens. But oftentimes, it takes a couple seconds for you to get set up. And by the time you're all set up, you can pretty much just look at the spawn and they'll be there. So by the time this guy runs over here and gets set up, and by the time this guy pushes over a sniper, normally grabs the sniper and stares and has long sniper shots here, he can look beneath the bridge and towards the elbow, and then this guy's going to push down into the flag and help get shots, and then he's going to pull the flag. So that's why he's important too. So that's just a basic setup. I think you guys, I hope I made that pretty simple to understand. It's kind of hard for me to know if I did, because I understand it very clearly in my own head, and I don't know whether or not it makes sense for you. But okay, so that's the very basic, like I said, first scenario where it's a perfect world and everybody wins and everybody wins their gunfights and just gets set up. But now let's take it into a Team Slayer, example. So let's go back here just a second ago. Now I'm going to bring this back up. In the flag example, you're going to spawn on your own half every single time. In the Slayer example, this becomes more neutral, like I said earlier. Now, it's still important to understand that if everybody died at the same time in a game of Slayer, if everybody traded, which like this never happens, but let's just say everybody died, they're still probably going to spawn back into their original sides because the game's still going to favor your original spawn point in a game like Slayer, but that doesn't mean you're exclusive to it, as I said. It's going to try to put you into some corners. It's going to try to push you away. Coliseum's a really great example because it's a very rectangular square, shape. Minus these back flag areas. If you cut these off, it's literally, nice like rectangle shape. So the game's going to try to favor you to spawn in these corner areas. These are the 2 elbows and these 2 caves. So let's just say the red team wins another encounter here. Kills all 4 blue. And they start pushing up like this. Same idea, but this guy stayed on red elbow, and he pushed up to S3, and they're kind of setting up like they're playing capture the flag to kind of push them to the blue elbow spawn again. Well, like I said, this isn't flag, right? So these don't exist, right? These they still exist, but not so intense, okay? These sides are more neutral. So this is a more neutral map here. What's going to happen in this situation is something called a split spawn, and you're probably going to get a spawn like this. Now, how does this happen? Why does this happen? Well, like I said, you're not so bound to your own half of the map, because if we were playing capture the flag, in this scenario, you would still likely see the blue team spawn like this. If this was capture the flag, if these rules still applied, the intense blue side versus the intense red side, okay? But since we're playing Team Slayer, you're going to get something like this. And the reason for that is, well, you might think, like, wow, why would he do that? This guy's standing here, red BR, red S3. Why are the blue guys going to spawn in a red cave? Well, as I mentioned a second ago, the most important thing to pay attention to is knowing where you're looking, right? And in this situation, he's here, but he's looking this way. If he was turned towards the cave, he would be dirtying the spawns in a different way, but they'd still probably spawn a little bit farther down. This is still probably the likely spawn they're going to get just because of the influence at this point. But you can see this spawn's pretty open, very open, nice and exposed. Nobody's on top of rockets, so that's positive for this area. And in this area, there is somebody S3, but he's staring towards elbow. And so these guys are likely going to get a spawn here. And, sniper's nice and open in this area, and so is the red flag. Now, in this situation, you could also get somebody spawning red flag. That's another possibility. But considering he's on red elbow, you're likely going to get everybody pushed into that nice little corner. So the reason for this is because everything I just mentioned, on top of the fact that the red team is cutting the map nice and in half diagonally. This happens pretty frequently in a game of Team Slayer and any map. It happens in Regret. I'm just using Coliseum for this first example because I'm just trying to get into some basics here. But like I said, negative influence here, looking towards this part of the map. So this part's pretty open. Negative influence here, but he's looking this way. And like I said before, if he's not hardcore staring at it, it's going to be pretty open. And even if he is, it's going to spawn you behind the elbow. Part is still elevated, so you're going to be undercover. But you'll still spawn there. You won't be in his direct sight line, but you'll still spawn there. He doesn't have a sight line because this wall's in his way, but he's blocking the flag. And then this guy is setting up to kill them off elbow. This is a really common thing you'll see happen, like I said, in Team Slayer. And it happens a lot because teams get a little overzealous, like the red team here. And they'll think that they can just trap everybody in this one corner, and then they'll end up getting a split. And this can be a bad thing for the blue team because they're outnumbered in this scenario, but they have these guys who can then kind of get a nice little flank. So sometimes it works in your favor to get a split spawn. Other times, you can get on 4v2 situations a lot. Now, I do want to mention real fast, I don't want to get too far into it because that's going to be more in the advanced part of things, but if this red guy wanted to be smart, he could have looked at his scoreboard, seen when the blue team spawned, knowing that he opened up this spawn behind him, and then immediately turned around and started nading. And you'll see a lot of really good players, high-level players do that because they're so aware of that. If they pay attention to, their spawn points, he'll be staring here, knowing that he's opening the spawn. The moment that they spawn in, he'll know that they probably spawned here and turn around and look at it. Now, all right, I want to go into a few examples real fast. Let's start on this one and kind of help you guys get an understanding of some other examples. Here I'm playing team doubles with Tyler on the map Coliseum. So I got a nice easy kill on that guy with my Magnum, picked up the snipe, and I got this shot here. Now, you'll see me right now, I'll position myself right here and stare at Blue Cave, and lo and behold, the other guy spawned and I blamed him again. Okay, so how did I know that he was going to be spawning Blue Cave in that situation? Well, plain and simple, I didn't, but I had a good idea that he was going to be spawning there. You can't know 100% of the time where people are going to be spawning, but you can have a pretty solid idea if you pay attention. So right here on my radar, I can see this little indicator which says that my teammate is behind me and to the right. So I can assume in a game of team doubles where there's very few people on the map that the whole red area, the red cave spawn, and you notice on the red team, okay, the red cave spawn and the red flag spawn is probably not going to be an option, okay? And he just spawned towards blue, or he was just coming from blue elbow, which is why he ran up here, okay? Now let me break this down again. So I got this kill, okay? Now I know that blue elbow is probably not going to be a nice spawn point because I'm standing here, okay? So the game's going to register this at this point and automatically start favoring either blue flag or blue cave. Now I'm backing down, see him get the nice easy headshot. Now I have a double, okay? Tyler is somewhere in this cave area or on the bridge area. Like I said though, I'm red team. They're blue team. Now, like I said previously, in Flag, they're always going to spawn on their side. But in Slayer, they're going to favor the side that they originally spawned on. So I know that originally, this spawn over here, the elbow spawn, was not too great of an option. Meanwhile, the cave spawn was because it's pretty open. Now, I am staring at it, which is casting some negative influence. But at this point, this guy's probably already spawned, which he has, and he runs right into it. But I also didn't have a direct sightline to his spawn, so that did cast some negative influence, but I had like an internal clock in my head knowing that, he's going to be spawning pretty soon right here. I don't really look at the scoreboard. It's kind of something you get used to doing, counting in your head. So here's at 18. He's going to have 8 seconds before he spawns. I end up getting this double, and then I start positioning myself, and here we go at 10. He's going to spawn in. Boom. There you go. There he is. So that's a good example of getting a spawn kill, and I was being aware of the spawns, and positioning myself to continue to kill after I got the first one, using the principles that I just explained via Photoshop. This spawn had negative influence just because of my presence on top rockets. It might be light negative influence, but the game still takes that into account. The game goes, well, there's somebody top rockets, so let's try to push him over here towards the cave. And that's sure enough what happened. Like I said, he very well could have, because of the fact that I backed down on my street. See, I'm here. I gain a lot of I lose a lot of the negative influence when I back down. I'm back on my side of the map now, and I don't have a sight line towards the elbow. So he very well could have spawned there, but it was unlikely, which is why I was looking here. So like I said, I didn't know for a fact he was going to spawn there, but I had a pretty good idea. And as you notice, I immediately come check this spawn because of the fact that I know that I reopened it. Turns out he ended up not getting the spawn, and I realized that quickly. There he is. He spawned on the flag. So you can tell that I have a pretty good idea of what's going on, and that's just because I've been doing this for a long time, and I pay attention to it. So in that situation, I'm pretty on top of the spawns, and you guys can get there if you take enough time. Now, this situation, I'm going to have a little audio here. I want to explain this one. This is 4v4 flag on truth.
That definitely should count as a headshot.
I'm going to let this play for a second.
I don't know about you guys, but as of recent... 3 dead. Somebody pull the flag. What are we doing? They're all in a spawn bubble now.
Okay, how did I know they're all going to spawn bubble? Look at this. I just said 3 dead, right? I noticed that the enemy team had just had dropped 3 players. All right, look, I pulled up my scoreboard. Going too fast here. Okay, boom, right here. 3 dead. You can tell. So I know that 3 people are about to be spawning on the other team. I'm the only one dead on my team. Okay.
3 dead. Somebody pull
look
the
what I
flag.
do right here when I'm on my death cam. I spawn. Look at this. I see 1 teammate. I see 2. I see 3. Now I know the street spawn's blocked. I know the bottom of the base spawn is blocked. I know the top of the base spawn is blocked. So where's they going to spawn?
They're all in a spawn bubble now. I'm gonna have to.
They're going to spawn right over here in the bubble spawn. This is CTF on truth. So I know that they're going to spawn on their own half of the map. Here's one right off spawn.
Yeah, I don't know
I saw another one running back to the flag when I jumped up.
My headshots aren't counting as headshots. It's very annoying.
Here we go. 2 dead, 3 dead again. Okay. So I'm going to get a little frustrated with my teammates because none of them are playing the objective. This is Team Arena, so they should be sweating. You know, this is...
Somebody please pull that flag.
All right. What I do here is I back up, and what I try to do here is start positioning myself to block this spawn by staring at it and standing really near it.
The bubble. They're going to spawn bottom of their base.
Okay. So they spawn in the bottom of the base, and one of them spawned in the front. Just as I wanted. But if you noticed, I made a bad play here.
Somebody please pull that flag. I am blocking.
Here I am staring, blocking the spawn. Doing a good job. Watch what I do wrong.
Bottom of their base.
Okay, I jumped out. That was stupid. But look at this radar right now. What just happened? Red player just spawned. So here's a perfect example of how influence is affected by your sightline and your presence. My presence remained, but my sightline didn't. I'm staring here.
Bottom of their base.
They're not going to spawn there. I'm going to go ahead and mute myself so I can keep on explaining here. In this situation, I'm blocking this spawn. They're not going to spawn here. They're just not, okay? I'm blocking it. They're probably going to spawn either in the back of their flag over here or in the bottom of their base down there. But right now, they're not going to spawn here. But what happens here? I open it up. I opened it up by looking away. This isn't a bad play for me to shoot at him. It's a bad play for me to jump away because I could have turned back and then kept dirtying it. I should have been able to leave him after he got one shot and looked back towards the bubble. But instead, I jumped out like a dummy. And look at that. Guy spawns right behind me. And look at that. I died. And I think you'll even hear me say it when I did it. I'll point out that I made a bad play here.
Like, we have to this play. Oh, he spawned there because I left for a second. So that's like a big...
So there you go. And then I actually, in that moment, decide to talk a little bit about the spawn system and how you can open things up. So, okay. Those are just some good examples about sightlines. And that example is really expressing the importance of a sightline and understanding that you standing there doesn't really mean anything in a lot of instances. You know, whenever so many spawns are blocked in a situation like that, you look back, their flag and street was really blocked. There's a lot of pressure here. You know, my teammates in the flag and my teammates are on the street. They'll spawn in the bottom of their base, as you saw the one guy spawn front, but then I opened up the bubble spawn. So there's really not many spawns left. The game's going to throw him in the bubble. And since I'm not looking there, that's exactly where he's going to be. So sightlines are really important. I feel like too many people think it's purely reliant on positioning when it really matters more about where you're looking exactly. So I hope this can really help you guys understand some of the basics of the spawn system. I know I might have gotten a little more advanced than I really wanted to just because I understand it so well. As I mentioned, it's kind of hard for me to make sure that I'm, you know, dumbing it down enough to where a novice can really understand the very basics. But either way, I hope this was helpful. If you guys enjoyed this and it was a good enough explanation, the illustrations helped, let me know, please. Like I said, I've been putting off making this video for a long time because I just wanted to make sure that I was making sense when I made it. And if it did, let me know. I'll try to make an advanced one in the future. I really hope this can help you guys out. If you have any questions, which I'm sure some of you will, feel free to comment them down below, and I'll try to get back to them. No promises, though, just because I'm sure there'll be a lot. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This video was me solo queuing right here at the very end. I just want to point that out. Some of you guys are probably going to think you have to have a team for everything, but no, this is solo queue. You can still benefit off just understanding how the spawn system works, even while playing by yourself. So just because you're not on a team doesn't mean it can't help you. Anyways, I hope this made sense, and I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one.